Hello, and the next level. You nice gaming experience this evening. All right, so off the top, we have an announcement this week, and a relatively important one, being that there will be no game next week. Next week is the annual general meeting for the theater group that most of us are a part of, so we will probably be attending that and not be able to game. So yes, we will be back in 2 weeks. I wrote down what next week is July 6th, so 6 plus 7. So we'll be back on July 13th. Yes, mark that in your calendars. We will not be around next week, but we will be back on the 13th.
Rob, I need you to pause for a second. I realize
Sure.
I forgot to set up the headphones so that we don't get the audio echo.
Sure.
So I'm just doing that right now. Okay, try speaking again.
Hello.
Okay, you're
okay.
Good. We're good.
Do I need to repeat the announcement thing?
No, you were silent for about the first 2 seconds of our intro, and then I remembered to unmute.
Okay, so yes, there was an announcement. We're not gaming next week. We'll be back on the 13th. Our offer for this week. So we're in a bit of a strange area of the world, but maybe there's some people around here that might know some of our characters. Specifically, if you want to come up with an idea for somebody who might be familiar to Gildy, Jacob, or Talyn, then maybe they will run into somebody. Could be somebody, you could try and be specific. Probably the more general you are about just, used to be somebody's babysitter or, that sort of thing, it'll probably be easier to fit in. So we'll see what we can do and just have that person show up and have a bit of a fun little interaction with them. Okay, and last but not least is Jacob's start of session roll. 14. All right, that is pretty good. All right. Taking care of that. So, to give a bit of a recap, our heroes have adventured into the Shadow Forest and found out the strange effects there, have returned to Silver Lake and got into a little bit of trouble. Some of them did, some didn't, and got out of that, managing to rescue Gildy's child, Morgan, who has a rather priceless statue on their possession, in their possession. And shortly after that, got called to go out and help a village fair ways off up into the hills called High Fort, where they arrived to find that a group of bandits of some sort had attacked the village, found out that they were a cult dedicated to the Fire Soul, whatever that is, and that they were after something called the Life Stone. So the heroes went down into the mines, defeated the attackers there, and have now come up. They have a few prisoners. They definitely have a lot of loot that they need to go through that we can talk about, and are now finally getting a well-deserved rest. So the night passes, and I think even before most of you would wake up, Leon, you've done your trancing. And you had something you were going to take care of after that?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably still sleeping for another 4 hours, so I don't know if any of them would be aware of anything.
Yep. So what do you do?
So, okay, so you want
yeah.
I want to do? I don't know. None of them are noticing it, so it might be...
I know, but it's still an interesting thing, so we'll go through it.
Okay, fine. So yeah, I go off on my own. Obviously, having Ranu there to kind of keep an eye and make sure that I'm like not in any danger or anything like that, and perform a little ceremony so that then I'm basically like doing some chanting, and I'm keeping kind of vague because again nobody's there to really witness it. So doing some chanting, and then cast gust of wind, or gust, so that there's like my clothes and hair are kind of blown for a moment, and then take 10 minutes and cast Unseen Servant, and then cast Misty Step, and disappear from one spot and move to another, and then take 10 minutes and cast, and a white stallion appears.
Nice.
In full attack and harness and everything like that. And then, kind of look around, probably slightly sadly, and then do another thing that undoubtedly everybody will notice at some point. Then the next morning, depending on how perceptive people are, eventually you'll notice that where she used to have 3 earrings, Leon now has 4 earrings and has 2 in each ear. And again, they're not like the earlobe, they're actually up. So she has no earrings on her earlobes, but she's got 2 earrings up on the higher part now. 2 on both. She used to have 2 on the right, 1 on the left. Now she's got 2 earrings on both of them.
Okay. Cool. Yep. And the rest of you will wake up feeling, quite rested, a little bit sort of recovered from the trials that you've had over the last little while. And yeah, would you like your morning to go? Who's first up? Well, probably Jacob, potentially having gone to bed first, or maybe he sleeps in.
Oh, I'm sleeping in.
Okay.
I was near death exhaustion.
Yeah. Yep.
I was never exhausted during the whole thing. Somehow I managed to go limp and sleep during the cart ride
That's right.
to High Fort, and I didn't reach any levels of exhaustion, I don't believe, while on the adventure.
All right.
So I'm probably the first one up.
All right.
I rouse, I look around, I see whoever's kind of sleeping nearby, possibly Tor is the nearest by, and kind of the rest of the group, and I just slowly make a glance out at all of our belongings, that they all seem to be where they're supposed to be. Nothing's been disturbed in the night. I notice Leon's probably not around, but that's not really surprising considering that Leon just trances.
Well, Leon might be back by now. I'm assuming that the sort of ritual you went through wouldn't have taken 4 hours to go through.
Oh no, probably took like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably sitting there reading a book.
And as you look at your pile of stuff, you also look at the pile of new things that you have acquired, which I will go through now as, Mint perhaps starts to categorize them. I don't know how, obsessive Mint is about those sorts of things. But yes, you have... I'll get to the money in just a moment, but just for the equipment-wise, you have 16 light crossbows. You have 10 heavy crossbows. And you have 100 bolts for the light crossbows, 60 bolts for the heavy crossbows. I'll say they're slightly different. You have 8 glaives, 9 maces, 10 sets of decent condition, a little beat up studded leather. Oh, sorry, studded leather. 5 sets of just leather armor. Again, all of this is a little rough around the edges. And 1 chain shirt. And of course, yes, there's the life stone, which is currently hidden away in Leon's bag of holding. So 16 light crossbows, 10 heavy crossbows, 8 glaives, 9 maces, 10 studded leather, 5 leather, 1 chain shirt, and a partridge in a pear tree.
And a light stone in a bag of holding.
Yes, there we go.
It was actually that theater warm-up was going through my head as you started.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Fantastic.
For whoever's going through and kind of itemizing it, as it happens, Jacob kind of like rolls over, lists up an eye, and is like, "Just sell it all, and we'll get booze."
And Tor's comment as he slowly wakes up, "We've got endless booze."
Yes, but you haven't been sharing it with people, so.
Well, last night we did. We all
Yes.
drank from it
Did.
after
That's true.
at the funeral.
Poor
Yeah.
Gary.
My own did not drink.
No.
I learned my lesson. Never again.
Talyn is not quite sure why we picked up all these crossbows because they're sort of useless, aren't they? They just break every time you use them.
Yes. And yeah, you have a good little pile of money as well that you've managed to collect. So once sort of everyone's up and you start looking through things, I will give you sort of the totals for these because it doesn't really matter sort of how I got to all of these different numbers. You have 270 copper pieces. You have 185 silver pieces. 145 gold pieces. And 4 gems roughly worth 10 gold pieces each. And yeah, you figure if you're going to sell the equipment, you're probably going to get about general selling price is roughly half of sort of the price listed in the book. You'd probably get that for any of the weapons. The armor, it is quite beaten up. It's not in the greatest condition. You've got, you can probably get some bit for that still, but it's probably not going to be quite as good as sort of half of what's in the player's handbook. And to remind you of a few things, Brato and Morgan are also with you. They were waiting patiently when you went down into the mines, but yeah, they came this way with you. So there is still that situation that needs a little bit of sorting. There's the Lifestone situation that needs a little bit of sorting. The prisoners and what these defenders are going to do, and then what you plan on doing after that. So as morning breaks and you're all awake, you can take it away. Oh, sorry, one more thing to remind you about. You also have borrowed wagon.
Yes, I was thinking about that as well.
Which will get the equipment. Sorry, Jess.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that knowing that we can load the equipment onto the cart, the issue then is we can only take the cart so far. So it becomes a matter of, are we taking the cart then all the way back to Silver Lake first before we return it to the farmer so that we can move all of these items and ourselves back? We'd probably be moving at a slower pace too because there isn't as great an urgency except to the farmer who probably would like to have his cart back. Or is there another town nearish to High Fort where it would be faster to drop this stuff off and or trade, or would the rates just simply be better? That sort of thing.
Yeah, if you're looking for the best money, you'd want to go to Silver Lake.
Would we be able to sell this stuff in High Fort?
There's no real buyers here because they're going to be leaving soon.
Yeah, you could probably sell some of it. Okay. They have a good amount of equipment. They have 1/10 the people they used to have, so they have enough equipment for everybody, but they could also take it, and wherever they're going they could sell stuff as well. So yeah, they could potentially buy some of it off you, but they have already a good surplus of stuff already. So again, you might not get the best price from them, but yeah, that is a possibility.
In terms of transportation, could we not put some of this or all of this in a bag of holding?
Probably.
Okay. So I actually do have an idea of where we can go next, and I believe that it will solve many of our problems. Talyn, you said that you were from a monastery to the Archmage, which was somewhere, I believe, nearby.
Yes.
Now, that could be the perfect location to store the statue of the Reveler Goddess, the Life Stone, as well as a safe place for Morgan and Brato to lie low. And in addition, they might also have a divine spellcaster who might be able to assist in certain issues that individuals might have with restoration spells. We might also be able to get more equipped to go into the Shadow Forest.
That is
What kind
quite
of tavern do they have there?
They don't have a tavern, but they certainly do have a supply of ale and other such libations. But sorry, Talyn wouldn't say libations. But yes, I believe there could be someone who could help with the divine assistance or help we're looking for, and yes, they quite possibly could help us.
Excellent.
That is
I've been there before. It's very removed. It might be safe, as you say, Leon. I think it would be a great place to hide out Morgan and Brado.
yes.
And then we can decide on the way whether we wish to tell them about the statue and the lifestone, or whether we wish to just find somewhere that Talyn knows about to just hide that away.
There are a few people that I can trust, perhaps not with the details, but just that, they could use some protection.
All right.
Do we know what this lifestone is, or why these people were guarding it, or
Yes,
if they really want us to take it?
That is a discussion that probably should be had. We'll say that some of the survivors come and mid-morning they'll check in on you, and it's probably three of them that come in and are just sort of very solemn and saying we thank you so much for your help. We couldn't have cleared out the mines without you. They probably just would have come out on their own and fled with the lifestone. So we're internally grateful that you have managed to save this relic and keep it safe. And sort of sitting in like you're in someone's house, a good sized house, sitting sort of all around the table. It's like, yes, and to come to the matter of now what to do with the lifestone, we had hoped to consult you on that. The Fire Soul is now obviously aware that it exists, that it was here, and to keep it safe, we will definitely need to move it, and potentially to keep it even more safe, if they come looking for us again, it might be even safer if it is not with us. Also, we are not many. There's only about 30 of us that survived, which is a good number, but only about 5 or 6 of those are actually no, it'd be more than that. About 10 of those are sort of solid fighters, and the rest are just sort of civilians and miners and that sort of thing. We could take the lifestone, but alternately we could keep it or sort of give it over into your protection if we have your assurances that it would remain safe, that it would remain secret, and otherwise not be used for ill purposes.
In fact, we already have an idea where it could be taken, which we can tell you, or we can keep secret from you, so you don't even know where it is in case the Fire Soul catches you.
And yes, we if you were taking it somewhere to be safe, we would not want to know. The whole point of secrecy is the less you know, the better.
All right then.
How would we tell, though, if someone came to us and say, "Hey, I could really use that lifestone"?
If someone came to you and said that, then then the fact that they know about it and the fact that you have it and they know that you have it probably indicates that they are not someone who you would want to help. I would leave it into your judgment discretion if you are going to help anybody with it, and they will tell you what it does. So the lifestone has 5 charges. Where's 5? There we go. 5 charges. So for 1 charge, you can cast Cure Light Wounds. If more charges are expended, it raises the level of the spell from 1st to 2nd to 3rd and 4th and so on. For 2 charges, you can cast Lesser Restoration. For 3 charges, you can cast Revivify.
Ooh.
If you expend all 5 charges to cast Revivify, that will Revivify is you usually have to catch them within 1 minute, I believe, from them having been dead. If you spend 5 charges instead of 3, it extends that duration up to 1 hour. So they could have been dead for up to 1 hour, but you're still casting the Revivify spell. It restores 1d2 plus 1 charges at dawn. Also, it has a couple sort of innate effects, some of which you may have noticed. Number 1, anyone in possession of the stone who casts a healing spell, whether that's their own healing spell or a spell from the stone, can essentially, they roll with advantage for when they roll the how much you healed. So if it's a d8 you're rolling, you would roll 2d8 and take the better of the 2. So it's always tries to enhance the healing of anybody who's in possession of it. And possession means you have to be holding it for this to take effect, by the way. You can't just sort of have it on your person. You have to take it out and hold it. Another effect, if you put... Sorry?
Is someone revealing this information to us?
Yes.
I'm going to look at them very sternly and say, this would have been good information to have before our dragon friend died.
Oh. You have a dragon friend?
We did.
We apologize. We were not in great condition to reveal things last night. Yes, the person revealing this to you is not somebody you had met previously in sort of your encounter. So they do
the dirtiest look.
Apologize that yes, if this could have been used earlier, then yes, they're quite sorry for that. So yes, the second sort of innate effect is if you put the life stone into essentially a bucket of water, some sort of large container of water. After 12 hours, it will have purified that water. Not necessarily in the fact of being holy water or anything like that, just that if there were any other contaminants in the water, they are cleaned out and it is nice, pure drinking water. After 72 hours, the water now has some healing properties. And you can create essentially that life stone water that you had been drinking earlier, that they had some vials of. So it's either 5 hit points that are restored, or it can remove 1 level of exhaustion. And anybody who is in possession of it, and this is again sort of having it on their person, is probably going to be particularly virile, if it came to that. And again, if you have held it and used any of its abilities, holding it is just one thing. And you noticed Talyn yesterday, after sort of just holding it, glowed in a specific color. Holding it does reveal a bit of your aura. So you will glow in a color which sort of represents you as a person. If you just hold it and don't do anything else with it, it's just a relatively short period of time. It's roughly 2d10 minutes. If you do something with the stone, that effect could last for up to 2d10 hours.
So Talyn has a salmon-colored aura.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Those are the general effects and properties of the life stone.
So at this point, Tor looks at him, also a little annoyed about the loss of the dragon, but says, "My recommendation to you is to blow up the mine and start rumors that you left the life stone there."
That is a brilliant idea. We will definitely do that. Yep.
Payon definitely eyebrows go up, turns and looks at Tor and is like,
Not just a pretty barbarian.
I do not like deception, but in this case, it saves lives.
Indeed.
Speaking of saves lives, now that we're protecting the life stone, it may save some of our lives.
Yes.
True.
True.
Do we really want to? Oh, I wouldn't. Who knows where we're going to store it?
Yes. that might change your options in terms of whether you want to keep it with you or leave it somewhere. Yeah.
All right.
Or we sell it and retire millionaires.
Yeah. Well, you've
Now,
already
if
got
we
an object
put
you
it-
can sell.
If we put it inside the endless mead, skin? Do we get endless healing mead? I'm just asking for a friend.
This is worth experimenting with.
Leon at least would probably understand, and probably Jacob, that the trying to get it in the mead skin would probably break the magic on the mead skin, which helps it to refresh itself. So, yeah, that probably would not work.
I only hear probably.
And I don't care if the meat skin gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Have they gone away?
I do not want to take the risk of possibly losing an endless supply of mead.
Yes, you're right.
Have they gone away yet?
Yes, they said they'll let you consider what you would like to do, and otherwise have left for the moment.
Okay, good. So, Talyn, where exactly is this monastery?
It is sort of through the Shadow Forest to a degree.
You have to go through it to get. Okay.
All right.
Yes, it is in a very safe place.
Yeah.
So is it actually within the Shadow Forest then?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Well, by safe, you mean nobody really shows up for parties.
Yes.
All right. So, I realize that we have a vegetable cart that we need to return. However, the individuals in this town had sent someone for further assistance from Silver Lake. So that individual could always return the cart on the way to telling them that they don't need to come.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can send the cart with someone else and go on your own way.
I think we may also
That's
want
sweet.
to kind of barter the best possible prices to offload this equipment instead of carrying it around and trying to sell it. I say just sell it to them, let them sell it for themselves, see what kind of money we can get, and do a bit of a split.
Sure.
I agree.
All right.
That way, we're also not bringing the two currently wanted individuals closer to the location that they're wanted.
Exactly.
This is true.
Gildy's a little hesitant because she was planning on going back to Silver Lake, but she says if one of our friends who we helped could also, in returning the cart, stop off in the city and just get a letter to Alphonse, then I'm good for this.
Well, I'm sure we could convince him to do that. We had that individual, I don't remember his name, but the dude who came and asked for help originally, he was with us at the farm. So he knows exactly where he needs to go.
Devils.
Let's make sure in the letter don't mention where we're going, that we have the life stone, that we have the most priceless antique thing ever.
Yeah.
I know it seems obvious.
Yeah.
All right.
Gildy just looks at Jacob and she says, "Of course not. I will tell him we are going into the forest."
All right. Yeah, probably that will be returning eventually.
I will. So Gildy's her note's going to say something along the lines of, Alphonse, we because he just knew. I'm just trying to remember what he knows. He knows that we were trying to get Morgan out of the city, I think.
No, he probably doesn't even know that necessarily. He knew you were trying to find Morgan, and that's pretty much where you left him.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to write a note, and it says, Alphonse, Alphonse found Momo, keeping them safe, helped out some people in it was High Fort, right?
Yep.
Helped out some people in High Fort. We'll be going into the forest. We'll meet you back at the cottage or in the city, where by cottage means their former home.
Yeah. So
in the forest.
did you want to make that like a meeting spot? We'll meet you at the cottage.
Sure. Yeah, because I think Gildy would assume that Alphonse would want to return to the forest as soon as possible.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. And yes, if you sort of go out and ask the defenders here if they want to buy your stuff, and sort of show them what you've got, they would offer you 450 gold pieces for the lot of it.
Wow. While they're doing the selling and offloading, I'm going to be using prestidigitation and mending to fix up the vegetable cart, the vegetable wagon, and like the harnesses and all that stuff. So when it returns to them, it looks immaculate.
Nice. All right.
Except for all the dirt it's going to gather on the road.
Well, yes.
Yeah, but like anything that was like any damage or gouges or like,
I gotcha.
that stuff, it gets fixed up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Return it in better condition than we got it, probably.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would be an appropriate Gildy? Well, to send the letter, she wants to like give them a little bit of money and not just expect them to do it for free.
Yep.
What would be an appropriate amount?
Thinking like a couple of silvers is probably fine. Services.
I'm also thinking along the lines of the cart we borrowed, to almost treat that as though it were a rental agreement. Give them some money as recompense for letting us commandeer it.
Yeah, you figure 2 to 5 silver, depending on how generous you would like to be, would be a good price for having someone deliver the message for you. And in terms of the cart,
yeah, but I had specifically commandeered the cart, so we didn't have to pay anything for it.
You did.
It will come out of my pocket.
Yes. Yeah, so this is 50 miles, 150 plus both ways. It's 300. You figure a good rental for the cart would be anywhere from 3 to 5 gold pieces.
Easily done. Sometimes farming doesn't go well anyways, so I think to give that family some gold, I will send 4 gold, split the difference. Why not?
Okay. All right.
So after we sell everything, how much gold per person?
That is an excellent. No, did you get the other gold? Or do you want sort of everything as a lump sum?
Let's do a lump sum per person.
Okay. Let me do some quick math here. 1 sec. Okay. Oh, wow, that actually divides evenly. So 45 copper pieces each.
Okay.
I did not do that right. Um, 30 times 6 is 180. Yeah. So 31 silver pieces each. And we'll round it up and make it nice and even and say 100 gold pieces each.
You can go gambling.
Wait a minute. We remember the last time.
It'll be much better this time. I trust me. I've learned my lesson. Don't boast about my artificing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was your only mistake.
It was the only
Gildy
one.
looks at Jacob and says, I have raised enough children to know that is not true.
It's all right. I can now put out fire quite easily.
Yeah. Did you want to take any of the? They're willing to. The defenders, the sort of price they gave you would be potentially without. They weren't really including the ammunition. Did anybody want to restock up on some crossbow bolts?
Well, I can round myself back up to a total of the 20 I normally carry, or I
Sure.
think I might have had 30 on me the last time, so I probably haven't even dipped down to 20 yet.
Yeah. So if anybody uses crossbow bolts and wants to otherwise take a few, feel free.
Was there a hand crossbow in any of the equipment?
There was not, unfortunately. Those are a little more rare. They will sell you one if you'd like. They have some, like the defenders have some. There just wasn't any in the fire soul equipment.
Sure. Well, wait, how much?
Yeah. Only 7,000 gold pieces.
What a deal. Make it 8,000.
I'd like the 2 million year installment plan.
They'd give it to you for 60 gold pieces.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Talyn gets a healing potion. Because I found a healing potion on the cleric, and Talyn seems like the person who generally needs healing. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Talyn says thank you.
And don't forget, you also found the rock of skipping and
Right.
Sovereign glue.
sovereign glue, and you still technically have 8 good berries and 1 potion of lesser restoration. You can talk to what's her name?
Don't good berries only last for 24 hours though?
These ones are special.
Oh.
These ones will last for a significant period of time. They're not actually good berries. They just have the same effect of good berries.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was thinking maybe it was the jar they were in. But as long as they're in the jar, it keeps them fresh.
Helinda Brewer was the healer that had been you met when you came to town. So you could return them to her, but she's also quite happy, given the service you did for the village, to let you keep those if you'd like.
Well, I mean, we're going into a forest, which has... Oh, but... Okay, yes. Remembering the last journey into the forest and eating twigs and berries, yes. We will gladly keep the good berries.
Yes. Okay.
Yay.
Yay.
All
I
right.
wish I could hold on to them so I never have to eat yuppie food again. I can just eat a good berry instead, if that's all right with everyone.
All right.
Gildy rolls her eyes a little bit, but doesn't say anything.
I accept the eye rolling. Better the eye rolling than icky food.
So are you going to send the cart back then with someone from the village? Is that the plan?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So that's taken care of. They just tell you if you're going to head roughly south-ish, they're going to head roughly north-ish. This is the defenders, and they wish you well. It's going to take them probably the rest of this day and probably a little bit of into the next day to gather all the things and sort of retrieve and salvage what they can from the village that they want to take with them. But you are otherwise free to leave whenever you are ready.
I wanted to see the mine be blown up, but I can be convinced.
That would probably happen. They're thinking they might do that as part of a weird sort of celebration tonight. It's not really a celebration, but sort of a party in commemoration of those they'd lost and of the times that they'd had here. And as the fireworks for that party, they thought they'd blow up the entrance to the mine as well. So if you wanted to stay to this evening, potentially you could see that.
It does kind of sound like fun.
And then we would leave tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
An extra day of rest. Talon's not opposed to that.
Yep.
And a little more protection for them in case backup group from the flame of whatever.
Yes.
The fire soul.
Fire soul.
Fire soul.
And there were 8 good berries, right?
Yes.
Cool. I asked whether there were any wizards in the town or among the fire soul.
There were none among the fire soul that they know of. There were definitely clerics, but no wizards that they know of. In the town, there was a sorcerer and a warlock that have both now deceased, but no wizards, unfortunately.
All right.
And Leon, did you want to maybe put the soul stone in a jar of water for now, so we could make more of that life water if we're heading into the forest?
You need a good-sized container. It's not a small stone.
Okay. So we may not have a container at this time either?
You can get a bucket, but you'd be carrying around like a bucket with you.
It's kind of annoying. Maybe that can wait.
All right. Anything else you would like to do as the morning slowly progresses?
Well, if there's nothing else to do, I might ask, Tor, do you have that mead?
He pulls it out. I do.
Can I have some?
Yes.
Awesome.
We're not going anywhere.
Yep.
Great. I'm
Start
going to have
drinking
some
early.
with breakfast, lunch, and dinner today.
All right. I will say, since you're having it with food and you're otherwise not, well, unless you can let me know
I'm
if you're
not
having.
drinking to excess. I'm
Yes.
going to get tipsy.
Yep. That is easily achievable with this particular mead.
I join Mint in every opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah,
You are-
I did want to have discussion.
Yes.
I hear wolves.
The town is full of dogs.
Sorry.
We do need to decide what we're going to do with the statue, and I am wondering what people thought of my idea which I believe I had given to everyone, which was in fact to collect such items and store them until they can be returned to their rightful owners.
To the place where they were initially stolen from.
Indeed.
I am for that idea.
Sorry, is Leon proposing like the long-term plan of doing this for other items, or just talking about the statue now?
Well, so both suggesting that we do this with the statue, hold on to it, with the plan to like return it to the Kingdom of Rakeen, but then also to long term, after we dealt with the forest, look into finding other such treasures which had been stolen and collect them and keep them and then return them to their rightful owners at such time as seems right.
Okay. Gildy says, well, I'm happy to bring the statue we have into the monastery to keep it safe, but Alphonse and I have been trying to clear the forest of the shadows for a long time now, and so once we return, once we bring this statue to a safe place, then he and I will probably continue to do that.
Oh yes, the short-term plan is to clear the shadow forest of these evils. But once that is completed, I have every confidence that we will complete this and complete it quickly.
So Gildy, having been working on this with Alphonse for like 20 years, just kind of looks at Leon and says, I'm glad that you're so confident.
Well, yes. Look what we've already accomplished. We've already defeated one. We know who the source of the evil is. Like we're halfway done.
Mint
We
just
have no
kind
way
of look.
of finding them. That was the first camp of shadow creatures that I have ever found, and I've been adventuring through the forest for a very long time now. So,
Yes. But now
I
you
think-
have us.
you know what? That's true. Before it was just me and Alphonse, and it was hard for us while we were trying to do this and also raising our children. But with the 6 of us plus Alphonse, I think that we have a better chance for sure. I just don't share your confidence that it could happen very quickly. I think that it's more likely to be take a while.
We pretty much stumbled upon it, though. Were you really looking that hard?
Gildy doesn't say anything, and she just glares at Jacob.
This is unkind.
You're not my
Yes.
mom. You're not my mom.
And Gildy says, "If you would like to go venturing in the forest without me, Jacob, you are welcome to do so."
I do not like where this is going. Let's not squabble.
Gildy would also have the sense that in the times when you were looking, there were probably many fewer of these sort of sources of the darkness.
Mhm.
It was always a shadow forest, but it wasn't necessarily as corrupted as much. Yes, in the sort of more recent years, there does seem to have been more of these things that have appeared that are perhaps a little easier to stumble across if you are unwary. All right. As the morning wears on, Leon, could you please give me a wisdom saving throw?
No! Stop making me make
Nice.
wisdom saving throw. I don't know what they're for. Don't like it.
Keep your eyes on your bag of holding the whole time. I got a
Nice.
bad feeling.
If my bag of holding gets stolen again, I'm going to lose it.
Oh, yeah, you will have.
Yes.
That's the way it works.
And we'll have to find it again.
That's right.
I'm going to enter a rage.
The Rage Mage, it's a new class.
It's a new spell from the Apple School of Wizardry. It's Find My Bag of Holding. It's fantastic.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Yep. You get a sense that there was some effect that was perhaps like some spell that seemed to perhaps trying to be targeting you and didn't take effect. Since this is the second time that it's happened to you now, I will give you an Arcana check.
Ah, crap. I know what it is. I know what it is. This is terrible. I am not okay with this.
Well, you have to roll. You might not know.
Yeah. I'm hoping for a 1. That would be.
I'm feeling fairly confident that with an Arcana roll, I can figure this out. No!
Leon isn't even sure if it's magic.
Oh my god! Brilliant. Oh god.
I blame Jacob.
I did nothing.
You totally
Oh,
beat me.
that's beautiful.
I'm not okay with this. I know what it is.
I
you
will
don't.
say that with a 12, because a natural 1 on a skill check does not necessarily hinder you that much. With a 12, you are at least aware that someone is trying to use divination magic.
Yeah, Yep, I figured that out.
If only you
Crap.
could figure out what it is.
And you figure with a little more time to think about it, maybe you
one
can come
right
up with
here. There's a
the
1.
exact spell. Yes.
Oh, trying to. So close, but that 1.
Oh, yeah. But you have otherwise not been affected, and
this is terrible. No, because I think the spell that I could use to totally avoid this, I believe, is a spell level that I can now cast, but I chose my spells before I figured out what the heck it was.
But tomorrow.
Leon, you look disturbed about something. Did something just happen?
Yes.
Preoccupied or distracted more so than normal?
I'm not normally distracted.
Is everything okay? You kind of had this distant look in your eyes for a second, like you were trying to figure out something but couldn't quite grasp what it was. Perhaps I could help. Maybe if you described the feelings and went through. I am knowledgeable of magic.
Put his one finger on it.
No.
Did something happen, Leon? What is?
Yes. It did.
Okay.
I grab. I'm going to use one of my magical tinkering things.
I was right.
And make a little tiny mechanical figure. I'm like, on this mechanical figure, show me where the bad man affected you.
Oh.
Was it on the head?
This is terrible.
Jacob, if she doesn't want to talk about it, she doesn't have to talk about it.
Save before, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and it is a 3rd level spell that I could have taken that could have solved this, but I've chosen my spells now, so I can't take this spell. It's horrible.
Okay, the little man turns into a tiny little music box with another one of my magical things, and emits a very soothing melody in it to Leon. Perhaps this will soothe your mind.
And Torroc just goes, you could tell Jacob really cares because he hasn't offered you alcohol yet.
Actually, Leon, I'll give you this much. We'll see how this goes. Give me an intelligence check.
What are the chances?
I was going to say, we're all watching. About 5%.
Actually, 2 in a row would be yes. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Given what you know, or what you've figured out so far, but there's a memory that pops into your head, and sort of looking over at Morgan, there's something you'd noticed previously that on Morgan that sort of now sort of clicking a couple sort of cogs in your head and sort of putting some pieces together. Morgan is wearing a bit of an interesting medallion. And I can't remember if you had specifically identified it previously or not, but it is magical.
Yep.
Yeah. And you maybe think that has something to do with why people haven't come after Morgan yet.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, you think that somebody is probably looking for you for some reason, and otherwise, yeah.
Yep. You're not helping. You're making it worse. I'd forgotten about those people, and now if it's those people, that's even worse than what I was thinking originally. Okay, Leon is definitely... So Leon kind of stops and thinks and looks over at Morgan, and then eyes get really wide, and then definitely starts pacing, and is pacing and walking up a wall to pace and walking down.
I'll make the soothing music louder. It looks like she really needs it.
So Gildy is very perceptive, so I think she would have noticed the wide-eyed look at Morgan, and so she kind of enters protective mom mode. She's like, "Is something wrong with Morgan? Leon, what's happening?"
No, Morgan is fine. Morgan is magically protected. Morgan is fine. I'm not fine, though. I'm not fine at all. It could be them. It could be other people. I don't even know who's looking for me.
I changed the song to Calming Ocean Waves. Thanks, chat.
Yes.
Calm Blue Ocean, Leon. Calm Blue Ocean.
Somebody is looking for Leon, yes.
So somebody's looking for you, Leon? Do you know who? Is it related to us having Morgan? Did they find where you are? Do you know?
Okay, so I know what it is. How much would Leon know about it?
I think you'd roughly sort of identified in the past because you sort of are often looking at detecting magic and that sort of thing on people. Yeah, so with that and sort of what you already sort of have put together, you figure that yes, the medallion is of non-detection, so that people cannot otherwise divine the location of Morgan, and you figure that whether it's related to Morgan or not, yeah, somebody was trying to divine your location, probably trying to scry on you.
Okay, but with my crappy roll for Arcana, what do I know about scrying? Because I know that I don't have to worry for the rest of the day. But does Leon know that she doesn't have to worry for the rest of the day?
I'd say that once you make that connection and actually figure out that it is the scrying spell, that you would know enough to say that, yeah, you're safe for today.
All right. All right. Come with me. And I walk to another section of town. I sit down and I spend 10 minutes casting a spell. And I cast Tiny Hut. And I get everyone to come inside the tiny hut with me. We're all sitting in the tiny hut.
Okay.
How tiny is the tiny hut?
I was just thinking.
It fits 9 people comfortably, so you're fine.
Yes. But it's temperature controlled. It's very nice.
Yes.
Yep. No more sleeping in the rain for me. Sorry, I just need to look it up for a second.
Yep.
4. It doesn't block sound, does it?
Creatures and objects can move through it freely. All other creatures and objects get barred from passing through it. Spells and other magical effects can't extend through the dome or be cast through it.
Yeah.
I think sound passes through it just fine.
Okay.
It can be opaque, but you can't see through it. But yeah, I think sound you can hear. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a 10-foot radius hemisphere. So.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, I will definitely then like take us over to like a secluded part of town that now is like a largely depopulated town. So I imagine it's easy to find a place where there's not going to be anybody there, and it's opaque. And I get everybody to sit down inside my little tiny hut, but not Brado or Morgan.
Morgan, okay.
They're on their own. So, it has come to my attention that someone is attempting to locate me using divination magic.
Why?
And this could be problematic because it could be to do with Morgan. Morgan is protected, and they cannot be located using magic. Not possible. I, however, can be located using magic, and I have encountered those same people who punched me in the face, as you'll remember, and threatened to tear me apart. So they may be trying to locate me using magic.
Well, can we stop it?
So, yes, there is a spell, but that is not a spell I learned. That is not a spell I've been researching because I didn't think that I would need to keep myself hidden.
So do they know where you are?
No.
Maybe.
So far, I have kept them from being able to locate me.
Well, then just keep doing that.
That is my plan. But at some point, my will might waver, and they might be able to break in, be able to locate me.
Let's
see
hope
where I
we're
am.
in the. Let's hope we're in the Shadow Forest when that happens.
Indeed.
How sure are you that it has to do with Morgan? Would anybody else be looking for you?
So, you may have noticed that at first I was nervous, and then I was really nervous. I was originally nervous for my own reasons, and then I was really nervous because of the very nasty people who associated with Morgan who might be coming after me. So, yes, it is entirely possible there are other individuals who might be trying to locate me. And I don't know which I would prefer it being, to be perfectly honest. Although the one, they would hurt me, and that would be really bad. The other ones, they would just want to find me, and I don't really feel like being found. So, yes.
Okay.
How would Jacob,
Yes.
you tend to be not very good at keeping things to yourself.
I resemble that remark.
Indeed. This concerns me and makes me rather reluctant to tell you all certain things because I'm concerned that in a moment of inebriation, Jacob might let certain details slip. Very much like with Torroc's issues.
I promise that I would never do that intentionally.
Gildy looks at Jacob and rolls her eyes and and then looks at Leon and says, "You don't have to share anything with us that you're not comfortable with. But if there's any danger to the party or to my child, I would like to know. On that note, given the risk that these people might be the ones who are looking for Morgan, perhaps it is best if we try to separate ourselves from Morgan as soon as possible and bring them and Brato to the monastery quickly."
We need to leave faster than... I do want to see a mine get blown up, but not if it's going to be dangerous.
How deep in the forest is the monastery, Talyn?
It is a fair way.
How thick is the forest?
All right, well, sorry, that might
between
be
here
clarified.
and the monastery?
Right. So just to give some perspective, from Talyn's, what Talyn knows, the monastery is roughly 2 days travel almost due west of the city.
Okay.
And that takes you into the Shadow Forest.
Mhm.
You are roughly a day and a half, 2 days travel sort of northwest of the city. So you figure sort of completing that triangle from where you are now, probably be about a little more than a full day's travel, and you're not quite sure where in there the forest would start up, probably closer to sort of the end of that travel. You know that the monastery is generally not deep in the northern part of the forest. So if you're coming at it from the north, you'd probably hit it a lot sooner than if you're coming at it from the east. So you'd be going through more of the Shadow Forest coming from the east. That is, however, the only road that leads to the monastery is the one from the east. Otherwise, you're going through just the forest to get to the monastery.
Gotcha.
And so like we've all been chatting for a little while. Like, what time of the day is it right now?
It's probably like just before, the noon-ish. You're probably thinking you might want to have some lunch soon, sort of thing.
Okay, so to answer Jacob's question about how quickly leaving, Gildy says, I of course would prefer to leave as soon as possible, but I would be fine with waiting until tomorrow morning as we had planned.
Not to mention, Torroc says, it would take them time to reach us anyway. Even
Yes.
if so, they've not detected you today. If even they were to detect you here, by the time they got here, it would be a crater in the ground, and we'd all be gone.
Hopefully, unless they have teleportation magic.
Would
Well,
we?
that would be unfortunate.
Then you're all screwed. Yep.
Isn't there also the potential that someone from Silver Lake could already be on their way here because somebody sent a message back to the town that there were issues in High Fort?
Yes, there's a decent chance someone from Silver Lake could be on the way here. The chances that it's somebody who's actually looking for any of you is probably relatively slim. The people who would want to come and help here are not the same sort of people that are probably looking for you.
Okay.
Yes, Leon did say that they were not successful in determining her location.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today.
Today.
But they might try again tomorrow. Yeah.
I see we not found you today, Leon, but tomorrow. Sleep well, but tomorrow we'll find you.
Yeah.
Not good, not good. If we really do want to see the mine blown up tonight, then I would recommend that we leave it first light tomorrow, so really make sure that we're prepared and ready to leave.
Great idea.
Rob.
Yes.
This is
Other
my
Rob?
second, nope. This is my This is my second wisdom saving throw.
Yes.
So, do I have a sense of what time of day they appear to be attempting to scry on me?
Yesterday, it was sort of early afternoon-ish. Today, it was late morning-ish. So it seems to be sometime between like 9 and 3, 10 and 2, roughly.
Okay. And I know exactly how many hours until nightfall, so I have a very strong sense of when that is. So it is kind of around the same time of day.
I mean, within 4 to 6 hours, yeah.
Okay. So, because knowing what I do about the spell, I could I just realizing this might be even more effective. I have Liamon's tiny hut. It's entirely possible that if I sit myself in Liamon's tiny hut, within the 4 to 6 hours in which they are attempting to scry upon me, they won't be able to see me at all. Because magic can't go through the hut. Worst case scenario, if they can see me, I believe then they would just see me inside the hut and have no idea where that is.
Yeah, that is an interesting point.
Gildy looks around at the walls of the hut and she says, "Magic is weird."
So, spells and other magical effects can't extend through the dome or be cast through it. I'm going to see if anybody has chatted about this online. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
Well, and again, but worst case scenario, I'm thinking that if I sit inside it, they'll be able to see me and then look around and see the inside of my dome and be like, well, crap, that could be anywhere.
Yeah. This question has been asked before. Keep going.
And in doubt, it's on the internet.
Is this
So-
capable of being moved, or must it be stationary?
Oh, no, this cannot be moved. It means I would be stationary for 4 to 6 hours per day.
In the middle of the day.
Yes.
Yep.
That is exactly what it means. However, I would be completely safe for those 8 hours that I had the hut. Those 4 to 6 hours. Because nothing can pass through it. Not even magic. Unless I allow it. You can all get up and go and come and go freely, but anyone else will not be able to come through. Yes. I do
That's
also
a
have a
good
way of traveling rather quickly now. But yes.
I think that the hut is a good idea, but it does greatly shorten the amount of usable travel time that we have.
Yes, but theoretically you could all travel along without me and then I could catch up.
that's a pretty good that's a pretty good idea if that's something that you're comfortable with, traveling on the roads alone to catch up with us.
I'm not comfortable with it, but it seems we have little option.
But if they were able to find you, and they did have access to some sort of teleportation magic, as apparently you do, is it not possible they could find you alone and you would not have any of our protection?
Yes. However, provided they caught me when I was on my steed that I can conjure, I could quickly get away from them.
But would you be on your steed in your hut?
No, but if I was in my hut, they couldn't get to me. So if they teleported to me and I was within my hut, they would not be able to get at me. And then I would be able to conjure my steed for when my hut was no longer there, hop on my steed and get away.
This sounds rather convoluted.
I was thinking comical, but yeah.
So here's my ruling for how the spell would work, given what I have read. So since the spell has a range of self, it is affecting the person, not you. However, the sensor that appears to spy on you would appear outside the hut, so therefore only see the hut and not see you. But It might be able to see roughly some of the vague surroundings where the hut is. Again, it doesn't necessarily it can't do a whole sort of 360 or that sort of thing, but it might see some location of where the hut is roughly.
Okay, so it wouldn't actually work particularly well at all. Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's like them creating their senses in a location nearby. It's just that since their senses are magical, they won't be able to penetrate the hut. So they can see the hut, but they can't penetrate it.
Right. All right. So, yes. Ta-da! This is my dilemma. It may be bad people who are looking for Morgan. It may be people from somewhere else who may be looking for me for most likely a much less dangerous reason.
I don't like it either way, just because of the potential for unpleasantness.
Yeah.
You do figure that if you can get people to the Temple of the Archmage, there should be some people there that could, otherwise block scrying or protect that sort of thing.
All right. To the monastery!
Yes. Alan does have concerns because he doesn't want anyone to know where the monastery is, and therefore, if they were able to discern your location, if we were close to it.
Talyn, give me an intelligence check.
The inside of the shadow is probably.
Yes. Let's go there quickly. We know that they can't scry me for a little while now. We have a window. Let's go.
Hey, not bad.
Where's Ken?
That's good enough that you can probably remember that one of the reasons why nobody really knows where it is because the entire temple itself is protected from scrying.
All right.
How fortuitous! I'm so glad that I came up with this idea.
Yes. Well, Talyn will have to convey that, but we need to make sure we can safely get to the temple.
Excellent. Yep. Let's go. Shall we? Please? Let's go. Right now.
You want to go now?
Oh, yes.
I would love to go now. I think that it will get Morgan to safety more quickly, but as I said before, if other people would be more comfortable staying and leaving in the morning, then I'm open to that, but we should go as soon as possible.
Torroc puts his hand on Jacob's shoulder. With this group, something will blow up soon.
Promise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, Jacob, it will probably be you that causes the explosion.
It's fair. I would give it 50-50.
Okay.
I suppose even if they do show up, I have all the rest of you with me.
Yes.
So hopefully it is the people looking for Morgan, and then we can just defeat
You are very confident in our abilities. As a mother, I'd like to get them to safety.
them. I was able to get away from them. So
You have boots that walk up walls.
yes.
We do not all
Exactly.
have boots like this.
No, but I'm saying I was able to escape from them by myself.
And your boots.
Surely all of you will be able to help defeat them.
Well, surely if we can defeat the entire Shadow Forest in a day or two, this is going to be peanuts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was not suggesting a day or two. I was suggesting
A
weeks,
week, maybe.
possibly months.
Okay.
But
Okay.
not years. Surely not.
Let's gather our things and get going then.
All right. You gather your stuff. You say,
So you guys are able to pass through the hut. No problem. But as soon as Leon leaves the hut, it disappears.
yeah. So you are able to gather your things. You say farewell to the villagers here, and you start making your way roughly south. Map directions. Which way is that? Southwest. On your way to the Temple of the Archmage, and that is an excellent spot for us to take a break for 5 or 10 minutes so people can hit the bathroom and otherwise grab a snack. I suggest not hitting the snack and grabbing a bathroom. And we'll be back, so we'll see you soon. Take care. Hello, and welcome back to the next level. We will pick up from where we left off with our heroes departing from High Fort. We had some suggestions for who might they meet now that they're on the road, and I'll see if I can bring those into effect. Also, maybe a couple other things. We'll see. So you leave. You probably had a meal there, just to sort of, there was this nice they had a decent amount of food. In fact, they can probably give you even just sort of a day's worth of provisions of decent food that you can carry with you. So yes, you head out early afternoon, and you get to again. You're sort of in high rolling hills. Can I get someone to give me a survival check, just to sort of roughly see how well we're navigating?
Gildy is so good at this.
Okay. Oh yes.
22.
Yep, you are quite solidly moving southwest, and keeping on track, not having to veer off too much to go around hills and valleys and crevices. Excuse me.
And I always know which way is north. So that'll help.
Yes.
Right. If we're like, we need to go in this direction, and I'm like, no, we're veering off. There you go. I should also note, Leon is no longer walking. Leon does not walk anywhere anymore. Leon takes 11 minutes and conjures a magnificent white stallion with tack and harness and rides in style.
So in other
During
words,
the
we leave
entire conjuration process, like that 11 minutes, Gildy stands there with her arms crossed and taps her foot.
I just figured we would have left in 11 minutes later.
Oh, and I could do that easily. My horse can travel at 100.
Oh, jeez.
That's regular speed. Is 100. That's why I was like, no, I can get there. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So then Gildy definitely does not wait for the horse to be conjured.
So yes, everybody leaves. And a short while later, Leon catches up.
Definitely the first time I would have timed it. So when people were ready to go, I was like, boom, horse ready to go. Although it does last for an hour, so then I am conjuring it every 49 minutes. kind of thing. But if it works for you, Rob, because I mean, it's moving like if I'm keeping up with everyone else, it's moving at 1/3 its normal speed. So if I can cast the ritual on its back and then just kind of like refresh it underneath me.
What is your handle animal like?
Is there a handle animal? It's not even a real animal.
That's true, but that's what we use for writing, so.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right. It is a +1.
Okay. I'm going to say that perhaps, and well, yeah, I mean, you'd be semi-familiar with riding in general. Actually, you know, maybe not. You might have not actually ridden horses. You might have traveled in other means. You are uncertain exactly how well you will be able to cast the ritual from horseback, at least initially.
Well, I attempt it.
Okay.
Handle animal check?
Yes.
Haha!
This is going to be hilarious.
So it's not so much that you fall off. You are well in the saddle. It's that the sort of the movement of the horse does sort of just catch you off guard every now and then. So you have to sort of keep restarting and restarting and restarting, and you eventually have to get off because you know that the horse is about to disappear before you've actually completed the next spell. And yeah, you just need to take the 11 minutes after that is done to summon the next one.
Actually,
All right.
rules question just for my own
Sure.
concentrations. If you start casting a new concentration spell, does it go away?
I don't think it's when you start casting. I think it's when the spell comes into effect. Because for things that do take a long time to cast, I don't think that affects things necessarily. It's when a second concentration spell comes into effect, the other one goes away.
Yeah, based on the rules that I've heard, it sounds like for this, it's like when the casting time finishes, that's when the spell happens.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, but thankfully this isn't concentration. It only lasts for an hour.
Yeah. All right. So yes, you make it throughout the rest of that day without any big hiccups or interruptions. You're still you get to, we'll say, at the end of the day, a decently high hill, and you can see in the distance, sort of a fair ways away, sort of the fringe of a forest. And you figure sometime the next day is when you'll reach that, and then be able to get in, go a little further to the monastery itself. But yes, you make camp on this nice. Do you want to be top of the hill, bottom of the hill, near a river? There's a couple different options.
Near a river, probably. But either that or the hill. The hill, at least we can see things that are around.
My personal preference is to find a location that has as few landmarks in visual range as possible.
Okay.
Just so that if anybody does spy on me, they look around and they're like, "Oh, she's in the wilderness somewhere." Crap.
Yeah.
Are we on a road, or are we just kind of?
You are traveling cross country at the moment.
Okay. Is there anywhere that has any sort of cover at all, without being a distinguishable landmark?
Probably not. The nearest you'd come to sort of significant cover in this area would be like the cave in the side of a hill or that sort of thing. Yeah, you're pretty much out in the open.
Right, but that doesn't matter because while we're sleeping, I can tiny hut. It'll fit all of us.
Yeah.
Nothing can get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for 8 hours, you guys are completely safe. It's all good.
If we steal a road sign from here and we plant it everywhere we're going to sleep, perhaps that'll distract them.
It's just, Leon always carries this road. Why do you carry that road sign? Don't ask. It's
That'd be awesome. That'd actually be really good use of hallucinatory terrain. Because every time you make camp, it just looks the same. So if somebody's scrying on you, they're like, they're still in that same place. Everywhere you go. That'd be awesome.
So yes, you can summon the hut. Given the hut is relatively safe, is anybody going to keep a watch this night?
Can Ranu watch for us the whole night, or just for Leon's part?
Oh no, I think Ranu can. Oh wait, yeah, okay, no, because I can allow Ranu to come through. Because I'm like, can Ranu? Can I telepathically communicate with my familiar from inside the hut if Ranu's outside? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So I just have Ranu. Yeah, Ranu is out there. If anything happens, Ranu will come fly into the hut to warn us of danger.
All right.
All right.
All right. The night passes uneventfully. There are dangers out here in the hills. None of them go looking for a strange hut in the middle of the wilderness.
Right.
Leon, you might notice this, considering that you only trance for part of the night and then are otherwise awake. But potentially, Jacob might be a little uneasy in his sleep. Jacob, this is just before you wake up. Your dreams sort of shift to something that's still sort of dreamlike, but much clearer, a little bit more in focus. And you sort of feel like you're in a younger body of yourself. It's on a bright and beautiful day, and you're sort of on the edge of a farmer's field. There's a nice little fence that you're sitting on, and Ridu is there with you. She is sort of leaning against the fence, and you get this sense of weird anticipation that maybe you're waiting for her to tell you something, and she's got this sort of preoccupied look on her face, and she says, "Well, I brought you out here so I could tell you what I've been wanting to tell you for a long time, but we were really young, and I wasn't sure you were able to handle it. So here's the thing. I'm dead." And that's when you wake up.
I'm going to bolt awake on that. Great panic.
Yep.
File this one. Let's sleep for them.
That's pretty much as morning is coming.
Oh,
so
good.
if you, yes, you otherwise had a good sleep. So, yes, and Leon might have noticed that Jacob sat sort of bolt upright and had a sort of awkward awakening. Yeah, but you can start your trek for the next day.
All right.
How are Morgan and Brado doing? Gildy would have explained to them, we are bringing you to what is the god?
The Archmage.
Archmage.
Bringing you to a monastery of the Archmage, and you're going to be safe there.
And they're like, the monastery? Like, yay for safe, but a monastery? Oh, great. Thanks, Mom. I was like, I've always wanted to be a nun.
And you will be a great nun, Brado.
I'm an old woman.
And to Morgan, I say, you are going to stay there, and you are going to stay safe.
Oh, fine.
What were you expecting?
I don't know. I thought we'd go to like some other like city and
yeah, another city with connections to the syndicate who are very keen on finding this statue.
But if we sold it, we wouldn't have it anymore.
And who is going to buy that? Who's
Someone
going to
with a
buy
lot
it,
of
Morgan?
money. Yeah, we just find a buyer, we'd sell it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be for like the full like huge priceless amount. I'd settle for like 20,000 gold pieces. That would be fine. As long as we can find somebody with 20,000 gold pieces, we could live on that for like a year.
Gildy just kind of sighs and keeps walking, like walks a little bit faster to be a little bit ahead, just to indicate like the conversation is done. And she says, "And now you're going to a monastery for an indeterminate amount of time."
It's fine.
I think today.
Don't worry about it. You get used to it.
I think today Leon is actually going to ride circles around the party for a little while.
Prancing around, showing off.
Yeah, not intending to, but pretty much, yeah.
In order to not feel jealous, as that appears to be Leon's intent, Mint is going to look up to Torroc and go, "Ah!"
Torroc picks Mint up.
Nice.
Actually, that very thing reminds me of, like, I know the perfect name for my steed, Jacob. You never did give me that piggyback that you offered, but now you don't need to, because Jacob can be my steed.
I like it. Seems like an appropriate name. Just a heads up, I'm getting weird audio on my input, and I don't know what it's coming from. So, streamers, for right now, if you're hearing a horrible noise, I don't know how to fix it.
You're definitely getting louder.
Yeah, it's okay from...
Every time I unmute myself, it is like redlining.
That's weird.
All right. So travel for the morning is relatively smooth. Actually, Gildy, give me just another survival check, just to make sure that you're not...
I was about to say, Torroc can also loan you a die, I think, or an advantage.
Advantage, yes.
Yeah.
So you can have advantage on that check if you like. There you go.
You didn't
All
need
right.
it last time.
Yep. So yeah, traveling is fairly smooth. You do come across a fairly significant sort of river, but manage to ford that just fine without getting too wet. It's nice. You find a nice, tree that you can put down and cross over that. But you come to a road. And a road that sort of crosses your path. You're going to just go right over it. But as you get to it, you can see that there's somebody sort of coming, traveling down the road. So even sort of as you're approaching the road, you can see there's someone traveling down the road that's probably going to roughly get to where you're going to cross the road about the same time you do. Yeah, what would you like to do about that?
How far away is this individual?
How far away? When you first notice them, they're probably like half a mile away, sort of thing.
How close are we to the city right now?
You're still a good day and a half, 2 days away from the city.
Okay.
And when I say road, this is a mountain path. It would be a better description. This is not a main road. It is a sort of a nice dirt path that carts have traveled before.
Gildy's not too concerned, but would prefer to limit the amount of unnecessary conversation with external parties.
Yep.
I'll have Ranu fly up so that they are approximately, they're 100 feet away from me, but they're up in the air getting a good aerial view, checking out this individual.
All right. The other thing to note is something I forgot. So, you get a decent view of them. It looks to be a lone person in a decent-sized sort of cart with a single horse, just moving their way down the road.
Okay. Should I make a perception check or not?
Sure. Yep. You can see if you can see any greater detail. Yep. Definitely quite good. So the cart does seem to have a significant amount of supplies in the back of it. There's sort of a tarp over them, so you can't see exactly what it is, but it is sort of a good sort of mound of something. The person that you're spotting, you're fairly certain is a woman, sort of blonde hair, maybe a little bit of sort of white or gray in some spots of it, and otherwise seems to be on her own on the road. The horse is in decent condition, but probably a little bit old. So, yeah.
Based on this path, is this something coming from like the Dalvier Hills, like somewhere, above and maybe to the northwest of the forest, and this is just like a path beside the forest? Is that?
Anybody who wants to can give me a history check. I think that would be the best thing to try and figure out what this path might be.
A pretty good history.
Ah, nice. A solid 0.
Solid 0.
All right, 10, 9, 17, 12. All right, so Gildy and maybe Mint. I'm going to say Gildy. Gildy has actually traveled a decent amount through this area. And you sort of, now that you're sort of getting close to the road and sort of gauging where you are, you think you actually sort of know where this road is and where this goes. Although you probably have not necessarily traveled it yourself. I was just looking at your little map of where you've been. This is probably one of the sort of traders' routes, a merchant's route that would go from Silver Lake to Razaval, which is the capital of Rukin. So it would probably go roughly almost sort of due west from Silver Lake, skirting the north side of the Shadow Forest, to come around, follow the Gadabi River down into Razaval. Yeah.
Okay, I explained this to everyone else.
Talyn knew that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, do you want to otherwise wait for this person to go by? Do you want to have some approach and others stay hidden? Do you want to just meet them on the road? What would you like?
How long until my horse disappears?
We'll say that you've got, you're sort of in the middle of your roughly hour and you've got a decent amount of time.
Okay. Cool. Then I'll propose I would be more than happy to go and speak to this lady. Could even just head north and then decide to travel with her and find out who she is and whatnot while you just carry on, and then I can easily catch up to you.
If you'd like.
That's a good idea. So we saw this person. Would she have seen us?
It's possible. You sort of were coming down a hill, so you might have been visible to her. Yeah.
Okay.
My large white stallion. That's why I'm suggesting I go.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
So I conjure myself a glowing scarf and I head off to go and meet her on the road.
All right. You meet her on the road. She's a little surprised to sort of see you, galloping up on your large white horse, and sort of otherwise, pulls her cart to a stop, and a little wary. So you notice she reaches for something and sort of but it doesn't seem to be sort of otherwise cocked and ready. A crossbow that was sort of sitting on the cart next to her, and just like, hello. Well, what's your business out here?
I, just because I feel like doing it, greet her in Elven and say, good day, my lady. I saw that you appear to be a traveling merchant, and I thought I would share the road with you, if that is all right. I'm not expecting her to understand Elven. I feel like playing the part of an Elven noble.
She replies in not the greatest Elven, but sort of a passable, what you might expect from sort of a merchant or that sort of thing. Sort of, fairly basic level of things like well met, elf. I am just, yes, a traveler on this road heading to Silver Lake. What is your business again?
Oh, I'm just out for a ride. thought I would share the road with you for a while, if that is all right.
Through the barren hills of... I didn't think there were any elves out in these parts.
Well, I'm a little ways from home. My steed, Jacob, is fast
She
and
she
strong.
It's like, Jacob! Oh, that's an interesting name for a horse.
I love how it's an Elvish, too, so it's kind of like that, blah, 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 Jacob, blah, 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 blah.
You know, I knew a young man named Jacob.
This is awesome. Really?
Oh yes, growing up in Earhart, back in Ram. Oh, that was quite some time ago.
Interesting. Well, why don't we share the road and you can tell me all about it?
Okay.
So I get Ranu to come and land in the back of the cart and just kind of check it out behind her, just kind of see what kind of stuff she's got for sale.
She does not seem aware of this in any way. Ranu sort of checks underneath the tarp. There are boxes and boxes of fireworks.
Huh. All right.
As Tor had mentioned earlier, there's always a chance for an explosion every episode, so I thought I'd give you one just in case.
Nice.
And you travel with her, and she tells you about this wonderful, if odd, young man that she knew growing up, who was the son of this farming family, and she'd sort of wanted to court him. He'd been a little sort of distracted and odd, but she'd managed to sort of win him over after a little bit of time. But soon after that, he'd got an apprenticeship and had headed away with some gnome doing some weird things. But yes, she had wonderful memories of this quite odd and quiet young man that she knew from her childhood.
And she continues to go the direction that I'm going, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah, she's heading towards Silver Lake, and yeah, if you're just riding beside her, then that's the direction she's going.
Right, but is she going the direction that we're going, or is
No.
she going the opposite?
She is crossing your path. You're going south, she is going east.
Oh, so I'm actually going totally the wrong way right now.
Yes, you rode sort of diagonally out from where you were to meet her, and now you're sort of crossing the rest of everyone's paths, and then you'll sort of,
Okay. I'm going to stay with her for a while, because
Okay.
this is really interesting. And basically, if I'm there for half an hour and my horse is going to disappear,
Yeah.
I'm just going to ride around to the other side of her and be like, may I? And hop off my horse, who will disappear. And then I'll just continue riding on the wagon to finish our conversation. When I'm done, I will conjure my horse again and ride back the other direction at 200.
okay.
To the group.
Yep. She thinks you quite an intriguing elf, and is willing to have some company. There's been a long and lonely road, so yes, tells you all about this wonderful fellow, and anything else you might be interested about from Earhart or her other travels throughout this part of the world. So yes.
Does this fellow sound familiar at all?
Oh yes.
So I think it might be our Jacob.
You believe so?
Huh. Interesting. I collect as much information as possible that I will remember in exact detail. Excellent.
I will send you a little bit of stuff later on.
Cool. Okay, yeah. So I mean, like, I'll travel with her for a good hour. Like, I'm totally okay with this.
Nice. All right. So for the rest of you, Leon rides off, disappears for probably an hour and a bit before you hear the galloping hooves of a fast approaching stallion.
Would we just continue on? Because this is something I feel that we're very much used to.
Yeah. Yes, I'm assuming you would just continue on.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, and I was very much like, no, you go. I will chat with her, and then like.
Oh.
Yep.
I think in our planning before, we talked about it, and Leon was like, look, I can go, I can do this, I can catch up, whatever. So I think we're fairly familiar that, or
This is something
comfortable
Leon.
that
I can
Leon
Yeah.
I can picture
find a way back.
Jacob taking I can picture Jacob taking bets on when she'll return and what condition she'll return in, or whether or not we'll have to rescue Leon is the last category.
Yep. Yep.
Rescue me. I am not the one who's needed rescuing. That was Jacob. I have not needed rescuing. I escaped from 9 thugs on my own.
Anyway, we'll say that Leon catches up with the rest of the group right about the time that you are reaching the edge of the Shadow Forest. And you can sort of, pause there. And again, it looks pretty much the same as it did the first time you approached it. The edge of the forest seems sort of mostly okay, but even just from here, you can sort of see like deeper in, there's some much deeper shadows. The trees don't look to be quite as healthy, and there's some perhaps bits of swirling sort of shadow smoke as well.
Assuming, or when we go in, Talyn will remove the drift globe from his bag and cast light and let it sort of help guide our way.
Nice. All right. And I will need another survival check from Gildy to make sure you can navigate through the relatively thick element of the forest for the final part of the journey.
Oh, that's a nat 20.
Yeah, that's fine. You're good. You get into the forest. It relatively quickly becomes dark and deep and shadowed, and there's occasionally sort of a break in the foliage above, and some slight getting through, but mostly it's quite dark. It's at best sort of dim light in here, if not sort of periods of darkness, and then there's the shadow smoke as well. The drift globe does give you a bit of sort of a warning for the shadow smoke. If you sort of just see light go out entirely sort of ahead of you, then you can sort of tell where that's going across the path. But you manage to not encounter that too much and make it relatively safety. You hear some sort of odd noises from out in the forest, perhaps some growls and occasional sort of haunting sounds, but you make it to a bit of a road, and you can see as soon as you pretty much get to the road, like just at the edge of your distance, at the edge of your sort of sight, for what you can see, there is a structure at the end of that road, and that is probably the temple you were looking for.
Huzzah.
All right.
We'll share that, we are nearly there. No.
All right.
Helpful.
You get to the temple. There's a gate. It's closed. Yes, what would you like to say or do as you approach? Relatively high, we'll say like 20-foot stone walls that seem to be sort of around it. Again, a bit of a gate and sort of a couple towers on either side of the gate with people sort of watching from there.
Is Talyn aware, familiar, remember like any sort of protocols or anything for people arriving?
Not really, just announce who you are.
Okay. Yeah, Talyn will happily kind of take steps forward to be ahead and kind of take his hood down and just kind of make sort of like a motion, like I know there's people there. And when he gets to a point where it feels like that's where they would likely confront him or say something, he will just sort of stop.
And you hear a voice from one of the towers shouting down saying, we weren't expecting any travelers. Who might you be?
Talyn Navalis.
Good. What is your business here?
We are here to see Vanoir.
Oh. And on what business might I say?
I was once from this monastery.
Oh. Okay. One moment. And so it's not even the entire gate that opens. There's sort of a door within the gate that sort of opens up, and a few people come out. Trying to give me one moment here. Just going to make sure I know. There we are. Oh, did I not write that down? Yeah, okay. So yes, one of them is a rather stoic-looking elf who comes out and sort of peers at Talyn and nods. It's like, it's good to see that you have returned. The abbot will be very happy to see you. Have you found what you were seeking?
Not yet. But unfortunately, my friends and I have found ourselves in a situation where we could use some protection.
All right, then by all means, come inside. And they opened up the gates fully for you, and you can go inside.
I'll take like a half look behind him and then follow.
All right. And I'm assuming everyone else is fine going in?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Gildy is walking slightly behind Morgan and Brato to make sure that they, mostly Morgan, don't try to run away at the last second.
No, they have not been having a particularly happy time in the Shadow Forest. So up until now, Morgan at least had some exposure to living out in the country. Brato, not so much. And they were sort of taking this like maybe sort of a fun vacation excursion camping trip sort of thing. And then you get to the Shadow Forest and they're like, oh, wow, this is scary. And they just don't like that much anymore. So, yeah. Okay. Trying to remember if I actually gave a name to the abbot of the monastery. I don't think I did. I will have to give him a name. Okay, so you come inside. So inside the gate, there's sort of a road that goes in. There's a building off to one side where it seems like they're potentially set up for potentially, horses and stables. There's a smith. There's sort of things for dealing with sort of that element of things. There's another building on the other side which seems very much more sort of residence and sort of a main entrance in and out of that. There's a couple stories, and then straight ahead of you is the temple and the abbey itself. It's a relatively modest structure. It's about 3 stories with, again, no sort of, towers or any big sort of elements on it. It's sort of looking at the whole thing. It's really quite modest and sedate in here. There's not a lot of showiness. And Talyn, you arrive and sort of are looking around and sort of remembering, your time here. And you spot just behind sort of the residence, not behind, but just sort of off to one side, almost behind the residence, a little white rabbit that then hops out of view behind the residence, but just seems sort of a little odd that you would have seen that here. Yeah. Any
familiar?
Go ahead. Yes, you have seen that rabbit before.
Talyn would give like just a smile, like a very small smile, but just I don't know, not to anyone.
All right. So there's a man that comes out to greet you. In again, it's not like they're particularly nice or extravagant robes. They're a decent sort of set of robes. And Vanoir sort of bows to them. This is the High Abbot Bayar. And he sort of greets you all, and he definitely nods to Talyn and to Gildy, who you met before.
Oh, Talyn nods back.
Yeah, and it's good to see that you have returned, and interesting that you should come as well. Good. What's he going to refer to you as? Guide of the forest. And you've brought some others with you. This is quite unusual. We are not a guest house per se. What might you be looking for at our abbey here?
We found ourselves in a bit of a situation requiring protection and discretion, and this seemed to be a fairly appropriate place to come. I apologize. I know this is not typical, but we are hoping for some help.
Well, that is one of the things that we are able to provide is some help. Usually, we provide help in the form of knowledge and sort of arcane secrets, if that is things that people might be searching for. What is it that you need specifically?
Gildy steps forward at this point and says, my child here needs some protection from the syndicate back in Silver Lake, and I was hoping that you would be able to keep them and their friend Rato here for some time. They'll, of course, and she gives a very pointed stare at Morgan, be willing to help around the monastery in any way you need, and I'm willing to make a donation to your monastery in order to provide for their food, their stay here generally.
And the abbot sort of turns to them specifically. It's like, and would you be interested in taking vows eventually to the Archmage, or is this simply a place of refuge for you? And Rato's like, I don't make any vows before breakfast.
Like watching a young Talyn.
But interestingly enough, Morgan sort of considers this for a moment, and like, well, we'll see.
Gildy is surprised, and she's probably a little bit visually surprised, but she does not say anything.
Yeah. And he says, well, we'll, we're happy to have you as our guests for definitely this evening, and we can see about tending to these two as well. Was there anything else you needed?
Yes, you had mentioned arcane lore.
Yes, we have a rather extensive library.
Excellent. I am a student of the arcane arts, and I'm always interested in learning, certainly from someone as prestigious as the Archmage.
Do you follow the Archmage yourself?
I do not, though I am a wizard, so I suppose in a way, you could say, I actually follow the Sorada tradition.
Ah, yes, okay. He seems very familiar with that. And actually, Talyn sort of takes a moment. It's like, I see you have reached the Mutawasti class or title. Yes.
Rank.
Rank. There it is. Yes.
Yes. Just recently.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Like finally someone who'll appreciate this.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Leon is oozing with that. Yes, finally, someone who gets it.
Leon, give me an insight check.
No, is he going to murder me in my sleep?
Your bag
Please,
of holding
no.
is missing.
No.
Oh, I haven't. Yeah. Okay. So, you noticed that the elf that Talyn had been sort of previously talking to, Vanuar, once the Sarada tradition comes up, once you sort of talking about magic and that sort of thing, he definitely starts to seem a little put off by you, and sort of a little sort of standoffish, a little sort of yeah. Given that you noticed that, give me a history check. Yep. So you suspect the reason for this, given sort of how you can, what you see of this elf, and sort of how they're reacting. You suspect this is an Aelanine elf, probably originated from the Aelanine forest. And they tend to not keep to those ways, and are they tend to think of them as being a little bit more, those who follow those traditions as being a little bit more sort of snooty, high class. Yes, we have all of the fancy magic sort of things, and you guess that's partly why he's not particularly impressed that you have reached these levels or whatever else.
So he's basically a backwater Hicksville kind of elf. Is basically what you're saying.
But you figure if he's here, he is very possibly either a wizard or a cleric of potentially some power as well. So he just doesn't. Yeah. Yes.
He's a backwater hick wizard. Is basically what he is. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, but you are the abbot says yes. We will take care of your stay for the evening. We can see if we can find you some interesting archives, depending on what you're looking for, my dear elf. And yes. So, do you mention the statue or the lifestone?
Who else is around us right now?
So yeah, currently it's your group. There's the abbot. There's a sort of a high-level functionary that you're familiar with, Talyn, sort of the abbot's sort of assistant. There's Vanuar and two other monks that sort of came with them to greet you.
Okay. Talon's not going to say anything right now. He would trust Vanuar and the abbot, and possibly his assistant, because it's probably not too easy, but won't mention anything at the moment.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so you are otherwise taken to some guest quarters. So you're taken sort of back towards the residence that you saw, and are assigned. They unfortunately do not have a lot of good private rooms, but you're given sort of, some monks are moved out of one sort of lodging room, and you're sort of given an entire room with probably like 8 beds in it. And said, feel free to make yourselves comfortable here for the evening. Assuming that Morgan and Brotto will be staying with us, we can arrange for other accommodations for them, or they can stay with you for this evening if you'd like. And they pretty much will choose to stay with you, at least for this evening. Anything you want to do as sort of you... on the main level of the residence, you can come down for a dinner, which is pretty basic fare. This is sort of again, nothing big and fancy here, but it's good, solid, filling food. You're not quite sure how they get the food, where they get the food. There's a couple sort of gardens within these walls, but yeah, you figure they probably need to at least go out into the forest or trade with the city every now and then. Yeah, you have a nice meal. They don't necessarily have a lounge or anything like that to sort of relax after the meal, but the abbot says that if anybody would like to try and peruse the more public areas of our library this evening, you can try that, or otherwise just retire and we can sort of address things tomorrow if you'd like.
Talyn will indicate somewhat discreetly that he wouldn't mind having a private word with him and Benoit at some point before the end of the evening.
All right. So yeah, we can sort of quickly address that. So you are taken out into into the temple itself, into sort of a private area, and we'll say see sort of the abbot's study, and sort of the abbot will sit down, and Venoir is probably still standing. Venoir is very sort of rigid in a lot of ways. And the abbot's like, you wished to speak with us. How are things going in your quest?
Slowly, to be honest. I was hoping to have made a bit more progress in my journey, but it is not as easy as I had hoped. But the matter of which I wish to speak to you is something related to why we are here.
Ah, okay.
Out of respect, I would not want to keep any secrets from you. However, it is probable that maybe not everyone should be aware. But one of the new potential initiates, Morgan, they acquired something of great value to some people in Silver Lake who are looking for them. And unfortunately, given who it belonged to and the value it had to them, it is not an easy task to have just simply returned it and moved on. So unfortunately, Morgan is in danger for the time being. And Morgan carries with them a statue of quite high value. The name is to Kvechna. Kensha.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Who originally owned the statue?
No, I know originally it was something the King of Rukon or Rukeen had.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, I can mention it was the statue that was made for the King of Rukeen, but it was stolen from.
Yeah, and it's Kayensa is the one who had owned it.
So I don't know how much the abbot knows of all these people, but he wants to be, disclose certain details.
Yep.
So that is the primary protection that I spoke of earlier.
So people are seeking your friend or the statue or both?
Both.
Ah.
Unfortunately, I feel if Morgan is found, the people looking for them will not take too kindly and will not simply forgive and forget should the item be returned.
Yes. We are fairly safe here, and safer now that the forest has in many ways turned against us. I'm glad that you made it here safely. We have had trouble getting supplies in, but yes, it is good to hear from you, and we will definitely take care of your friend, and depending on when they wish to tell us about this statue, we will take care of that as well.
I very much appreciate it. And it was not an easy choice to come here. However, it seemed the most the safest place.
Was there anything else?
Out of character, I believe we haven't quite decided if we're going to leave the stone or bring the stone, so I'm not going to mention that.
I mean, Leon was all for like we should leave the statue and the stone here if you like either in a secret hidey hole that you know of, or with people who you trust.
Yeah. So like, if
I
we're
think
gonna leave
we
it,
hadn't decided about the stone because it has a lot of really good effects.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we seem to have decided, and then it was like, oh well.
Yes.
I feel
Oh,
we've
well.
been charged with its care.
All right, so I will not mention the stone.
All right.
I will mention just that I did assist Gildy in actually finding her husband recently, and that brought me into the Shadow Forest. And I understand what you're saying when you say the shadow has become a bit more fierce, a bit more dark.
Yes. Yes. We are getting to the point where we fear we may need to do something about it in the near future, and at least find out more about what's going on.
Yes.
But for now, we are at least safe within these walls, and that is by the blessing of the Archmage will remain so.
Yes. Do you know anything about the source of this darkness?
As of yet, no.
I believe the group of us have somewhat charged ourselves with finding out what the source is and hopefully ridding the forest of it. So I can only hope for our success.
Well, and that would benefit us all, and we would thank you for that.
I thank you again. It is good to see you.
And Vanuar sort of escorts you back, and sort of just as you're walking back to the residence, sort of puts a hand on your shoulder, and sort of lowered voice is like, "How have you been? I know you were a little troubled before you left."
You can feel with the hand that the shoulders kind of slump. He's like, I have not made any progress. I feel like I am chasing shadows. I cannot seem to learn anything that will help me.
Well, you are back here for a little bit, and perhaps there's more in our library that you can look at while you're here. You have, I think, advanced perhaps enough to be allowed into some of the more restricted areas, and perhaps there's something in there you might be able to find.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I will do so.
You're returned to your room, assuming sort of the others are otherwise gathered there. We are reaching just about 10 o'clock, so we can wrap up anytime soon, but is there sort of any final conversations or thoughts people wanted to have before you sort of head to bed this evening?
Gildy wants to talk to Morgan.
Yep.
So she kind of guides them, I don't know, like walking around the grounds or something. And she says, "So, taking up the mantle of the Archmage now?"
Well, I'm always looking for interesting and new tools to put in my belt, and I mean, the Archmage sounds kind of cool. So maybe I'll learn what I can, and if it's interesting enough, maybe I'll join up. I don't know.
Well, I'd be happy to see you have any kind of direction. So I think that staying here will do you some good. And she sighs a little bit, and she takes out the staff of the lesser woodland or whatever it is. Staff of the woodlands - lesser.
Yes.
So this is the staff that she had. She's had it for a long time, and it used to be Alphonse's staff.
Yep.
And she presents it to Morgan, and she says, "As long as you're going to be staying in the forest, I want you to take this staff. I think it will help you. It will help the monastery." And then she explains some of its effects, especially the so it has a certain number of charges, and you can use all the remaining charges to do a ritual that will make a 20-foot radius, not super big, but if Morgan's going to be here for a while, then big enough, to make a 20-foot radius safe and hallowed, so especially from the shadows.
Yep.
Elemental phase, fiends, and undead cannot enter the area or charm, frighten, possess anyone within. And then especially if they cast the spell on the same spot over a 1 week period, that area gets a saving throw to permanently remove any negative effects on the area. So they can use the staff over a long period of time to make the whole area of the monastery safe from the shadows.
Nice. All right. He sort of takes that reverently and sort of remembers it from early days when Alphonse was around, and like, oh, this is Dad's staff, and
yeah, so don't sell it, okay?
No.
And
no,
she's kind of like, she's like trying to present a tough front. She's like wiping away a tear, like, don't sell it, okay?
No, I mean, I'd sell almost anything, but no, I know this is different. Hey, look, I mean, that statue, if you wanted to take it with you and make some money off it, I suppose you could do that. I'm sort of safe enough here, I guess.
I appreciate the offer. It's not mine to sell. We're going to leave it with the monks here at the monastery to keep it safe.
Oh,
but also
that's good.
I think Gildy had known that it was from Rukeen, so she's just going to mention it has a lot of historical value. It's not just a fancy trinket. So the group thinks, and I agree, that it's important that we keep it safe and protect it from, for example, the people who used to have it. So I would suggest not mentioning the statue to anyone else here at the monastery, in case some of them are not as dedicated to the Archmage as they are to their own wallets.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I don't trust people very easily. I'll keep things secret for a while.
Good.
And sort of, they come up and sort of give you a hug, and like, I know you're not leaving right away, but thanks, Mom.
Gildy hugs them back and says, "I love you, Momo."
Yeah.
All right.
Iona's going to spend the entire night in the library. I'm just going to trance in the library. Don't make me leave the library. I don't want to leave books. No.
They do generally sort of not have people in there unless they're doing sort of specific special research. If you are just resting, they do ask that you do it in the residential area.
No, but I'm trancing, so I have a book in front of me, and I look like I'm thinking about what I'm reading.
They are quite familiar with trancing. They have a lot of elves here.
Way to go, guys. Way to tell the mortals about you're actually resting. I try and talk them into letting me stay the night in the library.
All right. Give me 1 sec.
Leon, don't tell anyone about the trancing. Also, Leon, well, I don't have to sleep. I can trance.
Give me 1 second. He says that since you are not dedicated to the Archmage, it does require special permission to potentially remain in the library during sort of other hours. And he casts a spell. And essentially he sounds like he's talking and petitioning the Archmage, saying, will you allow this person to remain, within the library, within the confines, and seems to sort of wait for an answer. And they sort of, nod to themselves. As this is happening, so you're probably in the sort of the main temple area, and you can see sort of there's a statue sort of up on one side of sort of a hooded figure that's supposedly, I guess, to represent the Archmage. And as they're sort of, petitioning their god for this, you look around. You also see a little white rabbit that seems to be just sort of peering out from behind where the statue is, and then sort of hops away.
Okay.
And the abbot sort of finishes up with what they're doing. It's like the Archmage has given their permission for you to stay in at least the main area of the library for tonight, and we would ask that you would spend that time in reverence and devotion to the Archmage and what they stand for, which is sort of knowledge and secrets and arcana, and sort of ponder that if you are going to remain in this sort of sacred place for the evening.
Certainly shall. That is what I ponder every waking moment.
And yeah, assuming Vanuar is close by, he's just like... And yes, you are allowed down into sort of the first level of the library, and sort of, given a place at a desk where you can otherwise sit. Yeah.
I'm gonna be looking for spell books. I want to try and increase my number of spells, which obviously I'll pay for. But then I also spend as much time as I possibly can leafing through as many books as I possibly can, just looking at a page, flip, look at the page, flip, look at the page, flip, look at the page, so that I have lots of reading to do while we're out in the forest and I have nothing to read. I'm just actually going to be digesting what it is that I've looked at.
All right. Yep, I'll send you some information on that and what you find out. Anything else people want to do before the evening is out?
One quick question. Kind of from a general standpoint in the universe, what is the common belief generally on why the Empire is hunting down artificers? Is it known? Is it not known? The angle I'm going at is seeing if these knowledge people would have any additional information or theories.
They might. So what you know for certain is that relatively early on, while the Empire was expanding, they came to Jandisa, which is the home of the gnomes and sort of the home of artificing in general. They tried to siege Jandisa for quite some time, and that did not go well for the Empire, but they did eventually take the city. And that's when they got sort of these secrets of gunpowder and how to make rifles and cannons and that sort of thing. And since then, that has made them sort of has been one of the reasons why they've been able to expand sort of as quickly as they have, because of these more advanced weapons. And the sort of general consensus for what people do know about artificers and what the Empire wants for them is just more research, more development of these types of weapons to advance their war effort. That's sort of the really baseline what most people would know. Things that aren't known are things like, where are all the artificers these days? What have happened to them? Where have they gone? if the Empire had that information, they'd love it. But if everyone else is also trying to figure out, they've obviously gone to ground. Where are they now? What's going on with them? That sort of thing. So yeah, you could definitely do sort of try and find out more about sort of advanced artificing and how that might help the Empire, and then not give that to them. But yeah, that's sort of the baseline for what you probably know already.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna, in casual conversation, I'm gonna mention at one time at a gambling house I was there was someone who was bragging about how great an artificer there was, and it seemed these Empire people came and took them away. So curious on what they, just striking up a conversation on what the Empire may want with these, get the monks' thoughts based on their knowledge and thinking of if they've come up with any theories for that may not be in the public knowledge.
So two things you get from just talking to the monks here. First is they're quite aware of the Empire and its expansion, and very aware that they would not want the Empire to find this location. Artificer or not, just the knowledge that is contained here is rather extensive and could be harmful in anybody's hands, especially the Empire. Number two, they're not as oddly enough, even though this is sort of a temple of sort of the Archmage and knowledge, artificing is not something they actually know a lot about here. It is sort of an offshoot sort of magic and technology that is not, it's not well known, and it's not sort of well researched even here. This is much more devoted to sort of the standard areas of magic and that sort of thing. And so they are curious to hear your tales about artificers and what you know about them, and sort of learn anything about that. But they probably won't be able to give you much more in terms of sort of artificer knowledge or that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
At some point, and it could have been during the meal or whenever, but I'd actually be interested in asking the monks about what kind of prerequisites there are for becoming a monk, and what kind of what kind of beings they have at their disposal, and that kind of stuff.
What kind of beings they have at their disposal?
Yeah.
In what sense?
So, our friend had a drift globe delivered by a Pegasus. I assume that was from you.
They all seem very surprised at that.
Then I'm definitely looking over at Talyn.
Talyn's not listening to your conversation. He's not.
Yeah, no, they're like, Pegasus? No, we have no Pegasuses, Pegasi. Oh no, that
becoming a monk here.
And there's more than just monks here. I'll say that much. And you're sort of aware that this is a place of learning, of knowledge, of delving into arcane secrets. So the monks are sort of the keepers of the temple and sort of dedicated to the Archmage and otherwise seeking mystical knowledge in and of themselves. But there's also a fair amount of people here that just study here, but are otherwise sort of, found out, usually they are people who follow the Archmage and have been led here by one means or another to study and learn more information. So there's a fair amount of wizards here, or just clerics of knowledge or arcana or that sort of thing. So yeah.
So the monks are the defenders. So the monks don't necessarily learn the arcane secrets and things.
They do actually. That is one of the things that is taught to the monks, is learning the arcane secrets. They may not never ever get as sort of advanced as sort of a high level spellcaster, but as you may have noticed, Talyn do from time to time, they can learn spells.
Well, yes, but they're not necessarily academic.
They can be.
But they're not necessarily.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Yes, this is one of the reasons why Leon wanted to come here, was to figure out how Talyn could be from this. It's one of the great mysteries.
Yes.
Yes. Intelligence is not a requirement, to be honest.
Which Leon was just like, wait, what? This makes no sense.
More mysteries.
Yes.
Half the books in the library are just coloring books.
I'm also going to talk with Torroc privately again before running off to the library for the rest of eternity, and just mention to Torroc, like very discreetly, and say, Torroc, I do recall that Jacob had let slip that you were having a certain issue, and undoubtedly you may be able to find someone here who would be able to cast a restoration spell which might fix that for you, if that was something you wished to do.
Don't we have something that can cast a restoration spell?
You have lesser restoration.
Oh.
You would probably need a greater restoration for something like this, yeah.
Gotcha.
And again, like, very respectful, very discreet, kind of like, hey, we're here, you could do the thing if you want to, just letting you know.
Yeah.
And like, I will come with you if you wish, or
you could, if the color could drain from a dragonborn, you would have seen it do so a little bit. And Torroc thanks you and would appreciate knowing if the option is available. But you could tell there's a lot of trepidation in this.
All right. I completely respect that. The option is there. If you wish someone to go with you because you are nervous, I will certainly come with.
All right.
It's at this point, Torroc wants to know if they can do it. At this point, he makes it clear he's not sure if he can go through with it. But you can. There's genuine fear in Torroc's eyes in this.
Interesting.
All right.
All right. So yes, you're curious if they are able to do it. You don't know if you would like to do it, but you're curious if it's possible.
And did you want me to come with you to find this out, or did you want to do this yourself?
I would value your insight.
Leon? If Leon were a light bulb, Leon would be lighting a 30-foot radius.
All right. So
I mean,
yes.
half the time she has things conjured that glow anyway. So.
Oh no, that's just a 5-foot radius. 30-foot radius.
All right. So yeah, you could be reading some books about memory and that sort of thing while you're down there, but also you could be asking about that as well and helping with Torroc with that if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I figure I'll take Torroc to go and speak to the abbot to find out if there is something who can cast that spell. And then once that's looked after, then I just go disappear into the library forever.
All right.
Never again.
So yeah, the short answer from the abbot, just sort of assuming this is sort of still sort of evening-ish, would be that they need to do a little bit more research, but it is possible. They do have some ways that they can help people regain their memories. It depends how it was lost and sort of what happened there, but there might be something they could do.
If I happen to catch wind of this, I may start listening intently.
All right. Give me a perception check to see if you happen to notice this conversation going on semi-privately between...
Yeah, and I would have mentioned this to Jacob, but Leon has no idea that Jacob has memory issues.
That's true. Yep, you overheard it.
Excellent.
I was trying to be quiet.
Yep. You are aware that Leon is seeking help for Torroc for memory issues. You probably wouldn't have been there necessarily unless you followed along with them when they went to ask the abbot. But yeah, you would definitely know that they were seeking that sort of assistance.
I'm going to process that and kind of figure out how Jacob wants to react.
Sounds good. And if there's nothing else...
One random question.
Yes?
Are the grounds or the monastery itself or anywhere here hallowed?
The temple grounds are hallowed. So the temple itself.
So just inside the building of the temple?
Yep.
Okay. So undoubtedly, Ranu goes to fly into the temple and then swerves and does not go in.
So we will pick things up next week. The one thing.
Next.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes. So yes, we'll pick things up in 2 weeks on July 13th, as we are skipping next week. What I will end off with for tonight, just as a bit of a fun little cliffhanger, is as you're all sleeping, Talyn, you are sort of shaken awake. And there's a hooded figure, a monk, but sort of you have dark vision. You'd be able to sort of see, even though they have their hood up and sort of things are dark. It's not actually somebody you recognize right off, but they whisper to you, it's like, I need your help. I need you to help me destroy the temple. And we will pick things up in a couple of weeks. So we will see you then.
All right.
Take care. Take care of yourselves, and yeah, we'll see you on July 13th.
Hey, everybody.
Anybody knows where the cart of explosives went?
Oh, we can blow up something.
Oh no.
Oh,
Yep. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.